Hey, Cal here on a very cold and snowy October weekend. Winter has come early here in Calgary, unseasonably early, but I guess we got to deal with what we get. Anyways, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to answer a question I got on LinkedIn from my friend Rick. He asked the question of if you are wholesaling houses, you're not owning any properties in your name, you're only wholesaling, which means finding deals, getting them under contract, and assigning them to other real estate investors for a profit, never actually owning any real estate. What kind of business structure or legal entity does he need? And that's a great question, Rick. So I'm going to address this from two perspectives. From the American perspective, who's wholesaling in the US, and then from a Canadian perspective, which I know you are, Rick, and I am as well, who is wholesaling properties in the US. Okay. Now, before I go into this, I just want to say I am not a tax accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm not an asset protection expert. This is just what I've gained from my own conversations with real estate attorneys, cross-border accountants, asset protection attorneys. So everything I say here, verify it all. Make sure you book an appointment with a real estate attorney and your accountant to make sure that the structure you're going to set up is going to be beneficial for you, both for tax advantages, but also for asset protection. So don't take what I say too seriously without verifying first. All right, that caveat is done. So the answer, if you're American and you're looking to get into wholesaling, is pretty easy. In the US, it's really quick and cheap to set up an LLC to do business under when you're wholesaling houses. So go and set up an LLC, makes it easy. Do all your business through that LLC. There's going to be some tax advantages for you. There's going to be some asset protection advantages for you because you're not putting all your personal assets on the line. So an LLC, it's a no-brainer. Go and get that done. But again, talk to accountants, talk to a real estate attorney before you pull the trigger on that. Okay, so now the more complicated question is if you're Canadian and you're wanting to wholesale houses remotely in the US, like I've done for many years, what kind of entity should you set up? So, first of all, I've talked to many different cross-border accountants, and using an LLC as a Canadian is not a good idea. The Canadian tax law is different than the US tax law, and the way the write-offs and everything line up, you can actually get double taxed, or it's just not good. It's not the best option for you as a Canadian, okay? So most real estate attorneys most cross-border accountants in Canada will tell you to set up some kind of limited partnership structure, okay? So I'm not going to go into that because I just did a video on that, but limited partnerships are a bit more expensive to set up. It's going to cost you a few $1,000s to get that set up. You're also going to need to set up some sort of LLC or company that acts as the general partner, so that's a cost. So it is more costly to set all this stuff up. And if you're only planning on wholesaling, it may not be necessary. Here's the reasons why. Is because when you have a limited partnership set up in the US as a Canadian, you're actually going to be paying tax, as far as I know, at the personal level. So whether you owned a house, a rental property in your own name or in a limited partnership, you're paying the same tax rate. And I think it would be the same if you're wholesaling. So if you're wholesaling houses and signing the contracts in your own name or in your limited partnership's name, you're going to pay the same personal tax rate. There's no tax deductions with this. So that's kind of off the table. What's the point? If you're not going to save any money in taxes setting up an entity, then what's the point? Okay. Now the next question would be, well, asset protection. So how can I protect my assets so I don't get sued if something were to go wrong with a deal? Okay. And you're going to have to address that question thinking about what assets do you own? Do you own other properties in the US? Do you own companies? What kind of assets could you potentially lose if you got sued? And same in Canada, okay? So if you've got a lot of assets that you don't want anyone to touch should things go bad, then even if you're wholesaling, it's probably a good idea to set up some sort of business entity as a bit of asset protection. And again, I'm no expert on this, okay? So make sure you verify. But if you're starting out and you don't have any assets, there's nothing really to protect, right? If they can't take anything from you, if you don't own your own home, if you don't own a portfolio of properties or other assets, well, then there's nothing to really protect. So at that point, I would say you might be better off to save yourself some money and time and go ahead and just do the business in your own name. The tax rate's going to be the same. You have no assets to really protect, okay? And then as you build your business, maybe you start taking down some of those deals for yourself and increasing your portfolio of rental properties or whatever. Well, now you got something to protect, and that's when you might need to set up a legal structure like a limited partnership and that kind of thing. But again, talk to a cross-border accountant, not just a Canadian accountant, not just the US. It has to be someone that knows both sides of the border, and they can advise you accordingly. But that's my 2 cents based on many conversations I've had. Okay, so I hope that helps, and great question. If any of you guys have any other real estate related questions, both US and cross-border as a Canadian, happy to help and answer them. Just post under this video wherever you're watching it, and maybe I'll even do a video like this to help explain it. Take care.